back to the channel. So today we are going to talk about the higher self. What is the higher self? How can we connect to it? How can we channel it? And how do we access higher consciousness through our higher self? So first of all, before talking about the higher self, I simply want to share that whenever we are talking about the truth, whenever we are talking about the God, universe, the higher self, it's important that we don't try to define it, because to define it is to limit it. So, what we are going to do here is we are simply trying to point towards the higher self. So, that pointing is simply a way to discover the higher self, to know the higher self, but it is not to limit it. So, with that, let's start with my experience of the higher self. So, my first experience of the higher self was telepathic. It was like a voice, a presence, but it was not inside my head. And I heard that when I was at my lowest. It was kind of a initiation. And the moment I heard that telepathic voice, that presence, I knew it, that it is not from this time and space. That presence was beyond time and space. And that presence has such a uplifting feeling, a unconditional love that no human can express. It was like something was activated in me. So to make sense of all this through logic is not possible. So here we are using the logic itself because we are using words, we are talking, but we also understand the limitation of logic. So this is why you don't have to take everything literally, but you have to simply look at the direction in which the words, the logic is pointing towards, because it is very intuitive. So with that experience, I feel higher self does not exist in time and space. It is beyond it. It is our multi-dimensional self. By that, I mean that it is overlooking all our possible realities, all our possible selves, and it has information about that, all our future selves, all the versions of ourselves that we can become. It is already tapped into that, and it knows that what's best for you in this current lifetime, in this current reality, based on your nature, your core nature, your being, your authentic self. So it's always like trying to align you with that, because that will help you to access your highest potential. But because we are here having a human experience, we have an ego. The ego is our identification with our physical vessel, with our name, with our identity. Everything that we are identified with, our nationality, our religion, and everything that is connected to our name, all the roles that we play, our job, etc. So we are really living a human life. So it's not possible that we always operate from our higher self, that we are always the higher self. But we can access it through consciously creating a connection. And that can be created through several methods. Everyone is different, everyone is unique. So different things work for different people. For example, the way I personally channel it and access it is through meditation. Meditation is the direct way to experience your higher self. And I'm not talking about guided meditation where you're trying to become something, you're manifesting something. Meditation in its pure form is about sitting with yourself and simply starting to observe your breath. This is the very basic form of meditation. And you have to simply stay with the breath. Simply have to start watching it. And as you start moving into yourself, within yourself, and you start observing the thoughts, you start questioning the thoughts, a point will come where the frequency of thought will be really less and a space will be there. Earlier, that space was occupied by your ego, by your thoughts. And when you are continuously watching everything, observing everything, witnessing everything, then there comes a point where you simply are. One thing is talking about it, another thing is experiencing it. So at that point, no thought is there basically. So I don't mean that you have to go into a thoughtless state. You simply have to eliminate the ego. You have to let go of the ego. You have to simply come back again and again to the breath, and something will happen. You can't do meditation, you can't do it. So you have to let it happen. You have to surrender. You have to let the higher self take over. You have to let go of control. And the best way to explain is the example of wave and the ocean. No matter how much a wave tries to merge with the ocean, it can't, because it is living in the illusion that it is separate from the ocean. But in actuality, they both are one. And not just that, the material with which they are created, water, that's one. So how can they be separate? So the ego has this perspective that I am a small wave, higher self is the big ocean, and now I have to seek spiritual enlightenment and I will become the big ocean. That also is an identity from the perspective of ego. Now you want to go from a small identity to the big identity. But higher self is not about that. It is about realizing that it's all water. When you realize this, your understanding completely changes. So this is not something that we have to possess or achieve this experience. It will happen on its own, but you have to simply do something in your life that calms down your mind, that makes you see life beyond your ego. For some, it can be meditation. For some, it can be some creative thing where you simply are in the zone, like painting, like dancing, like singing, anything where the mind calms down, shuts down. For a moment, you simply become timeless. You are simply in the moment. You become that thing which you are doing. So all these things definitely help you experience that higher energy, but still you are unaware of that. But in meditation, you are conscious of that. You are watching it all happen. You are the witness. You are simply experiencing yourself dissolve from the wave, and for a moment experiencing the ocean, then again realizing that it's all water. So that's the power of meditation, that you see the limitation of thought from the thought by simply observing it all, and then the higher consciousness simply is there. Another example would be that if there is a room which is full of furniture, first we will have to take out the furniture to create space in that. So let's just say that that furniture is the ego's stories, the identity, the thoughts, and everything. Our mind is filled with that. There is no space for the higher consciousness. But when you take out the furniture, all that left is space. So you are already that space, you are already the water, but you're identified with being a small wave, a big wave. And the spiritual ego is, I'm the big ocean. No, I'm not a wave, I'm the big ocean. But realization that I'm simply water, neither wave nor the ocean, simply the water, state of being, pure consciousness. When you realize this is the ultimate. Now you don't have to think in the ultimate in the form of that this is spiritual enlightenment, I want to possess it, but in the way that when you realize this, your understanding changes. Then you can carry that higher awareness, then you can embody that higher self. Because we are so much engrossed in this experience of the ego, we are experiencing a human life. So you are bound to forget and forget again and again that there is something in you that is beyond time and space. There is something in you which is timeless, but it exists in time. There is something in you that is free from space. Any kind of space, it is free from that. So all our problems are only in the dimension of time and space. So when we are connected to something deeper with our higher self, all our problems become really tiny from the perspective of that. It doesn't mean that we don't deal with them. It just means our perspective changes about a lot of things. Another example would be that if all the problems of the ego, if you see it, they are all on the surface, they're all on the periphery. Things affect you, whatever happens, they make you feel bad, they make you feel good. But let's just say that in you there is a centeredness. There is a center, and that center is free from the periphery, from the circumference, from everything that goes on the outside. And that center is free from time and space. That's what samsara means. The wheel, the spiral, it goes on and on, but at the center of the wheel, there is a point which never changes, which is always still, calm in the chaos. That is consciousness. That is beyond time and space. That is multidimensional. That is free. It doesn't have to become free. The ego is always in a search to become free. But real awakening is realizing that you are already free. You are simply identified with the things that you feel you have to become free from. So there is no prison. The prison is only your own conditioning, your own mind. So what are the different ways other than meditation? It is simply getting to know yourself, to know yourself is the easiest way to access your higher self. Because for one person, it can be their creativity. Because when the first time I meditated, I knew it, that this is for me. It felt like home. It felt like I can do it effortlessly. And I remembered that I have done it without even knowing it. When I was a child, unconsciously, I didn't even know what I was doing, but I accessed that consciousness. So it depends person to person. So if you are a creative person, let's just say, so you can do it in your creative way. But the only thing that you need to access it, to connect to that higher self, is to set the intention that I have all the time in the world. I am not in a rush to access that consciousness, to access my higher self. I have all the time in the world. If I'm going into meditation, if I'm going into some creative activity, if I'm simply taking a walk, sitting in nature, I have all the time in the world and I'm completely relaxed. I'm in a state of let go. I don't need to control. And the moment you let go, that energy becomes available to you. It's just like when the wave is trying to control its flow against the river, against the ocean, the more it will suffer, the more it will be unable to realize that it is part of a big ocean and the flow is taking it. It is not strong enough to control the ocean. So when you surrender, naturally you become part of this divine play. But when you hold on, when you are controlling, you are not surrendering. You can't get out of your story. So how can you create space? Like I said earlier, it's full of furniture. So space is needed to anchor that higher consciousness, to anchor that higher self. The more space you have in your energy, which means the more you are free from yourself, the more you can anchor that higher consciousness. So the ego can't experience the higher self. The wave can't experience the ocean. First, it has to dissolve. Whether it can dissolve through meditation or it can dissolve through any creative activity. Because when you are painting, if you are a painter, a dancer, any creative person can know this, that when you once get into it, you completely sometimes forget yourself and you completely become merged in that creative thing, whatever you are doing. So it shows that you transcend the ego, you become free from yourself. This is the problem with the spiritual ego, with the so-called spiritual people, that they not try to possess the higher self, to possess the experience, which is not possible. Because first you have to disappear. You have to transcend yourself. You have to transcend your ego attachment. You have to see beyond your ego. And then all that left is the higher self. So when you sit with the intention that I have all the time in the world, the point is to completely surrender, relax. Don't be in a rush. And then whatever you do, whether it is some creative activity, do it with the intention that I'm simply doing it playfully, not with seriously. Don't meditate seriously. Don't do anything creative seriously. Don't take a walk in nature seriously. Just be playful about it. Relax. And when you will relax, it's bound to happen. Because when the body is relaxed, it is creating space. It is free from the stories. It is not in control mode. It is flowing. And that creates the energy which was already there. It helps you to get anchored in your centeredness. And now the thing is that if you want some information, if you want some guidance, what do you do? So personally for me, my experience is that you don't have to do anything. This is also ego's trick. And I love the Zen saying that it's not about finding the answers, it's about losing the questions. Because once you are in that state, all questions also dissolve with your ego. And all that left is pure intuition. You can't even call it answers. Simply intuitive knowing that you don't even need a particular map, an answer. You just know. A deep knowing comes within you. So you don't have to go into meditation with any questions, with any thought. You don't have to think. You simply have to observe. You simply have to witness. You simply have to watch. And as you start doing that, all the questions, the ego, the stories, you have to give yourself the time to let it all dissolve. And finally, all that is left is the higher self. So you can't be in that state all the time, 24/7. It will be really silly to say that, but if you have the tool, and the best tool is understanding, because once you experience that again and again, once you know that, once you see that this is the truth again and again, your understanding can change. And that understanding is the whole thing. Just think about it. A wave is living its entire lifetime thinking that it is separate from the ocean. What will be the understanding of that wave? But one wave has again and again seen itself getting dissolved in the ocean. Then its understanding is very different. So, this is why meditation is very crucial, because it helps you to know yourself. And once you know yourself, you naturally know that what is the best way for me to access the higher self. So, this is why know thyself, discover yourself. This should be our primary objective. And as we do that, everything else is revealed. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can like, you can comment, and you can share with your friends. And thank you for subscribing. Much love to you all.